Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have what I'm titling Bioweapon Blues 26. It's the 26th episode in my Bioweapon Blues series. Subtitle is It's World War III 5E, or World War III Subpart 5E. And what I mean by that, it's fifth generation warfare, and it's electronic as well. So I think you'll find these videos very interesting. I think they're still trying to get people killed with the kill shot, and it's not a vaccine, and it causes great harm. It's very dangerous. So stop the shots now. And some of these politicians have to go so that justice can happen, because they're standing in the way of justice for the people who were murdered and injured. But this is first one is going to be a person who they call president. You can't even talk. His wife does the talking for him. This is January 1st, 2023.
And get your flu shot.
Well, we are looking forward to it tonight. Thank you.
Take care of your health this year. Go get that COVID vaccine and get your flu shot.
Well, we are looking forward to
Yeah, I wouldn't get either of those, but you make your own decision.
big celebration tonight. Thank you very much for being with us. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Bob.
And the whole America.
To all Americans, and especially
it will be more significant. And
So this is the promise of what's coming up next. This is a guy by the name of Jeremy Jurgens, Jurgens. I have confirmed he is a member of the World Economic Forum, and he seems to be making a prophetic utterance here. But this is highly concerning.
we need to actually start preparing for that now. And I would anticipate that when we do see this next crisis, it will be faster than what we've seen with COVID. The exponential growth rate will be much steeper. The impact will be greater. And as a result, the economic and social implications will be even more significant.
As if they weren't significant enough, what they've already done to us over the last 3 years.
Welcome to this talk. My name
This is Dr. John Campbell. He has been a commentator during COVID for a long time. He has a substantial following, and he is coming out. This is published December 28th, 2022, against these shots. They're still calling them vaccines. They're not vaccines. They don't prevent anything.
John Campbell. I'm a semi-retired clinical nurse lecturer, academic, researcher, author of numerous articles and 2 textbooks. My specialisms are human physiology and pathophysiology, as applied to clinical practice. I've also produced many educational videos, which are used extensively around the world. In my view, the UK health authorities should pause the current COVID-19 mass vaccine rollout programme due to the risks associated with the vaccines. As time has passed since the early days of 2020, the number of patients hospitalised with COVID-19 infections has continued to decline since its peak in previous waves. This is clearly seen in data published by the UK government and the Office for National Statistics. In addition, the proportion of patients in hospital with COVID-19 is now greater than the patients admitted to hospital for COVID-19. This is true for general hospital admissions as well as intensive care admissions. In other words, most COVID-positive patients admitted to hospital now are incidental and were not admitted purely for complications of COVID. As a result of mass infections during the various waves of the pandemic, especially the huge numbers of people infected with the Omicron variant, most people have developed levels of natural immunity to the virus. This natural infection also generates mucosal compartment immunity in the respiratory tract, which the injected vaccines do not. While prior infection does not always prevent symptomatic disease, it does provide levels of protection against severe disease and hospitalization. This means the overall risk from COVID-19 infection with SARS coronavirus 2 is significantly less than it was when the vaccination programs were first instigated. However, the risks associated with ongoing vaccinations are probably the same as they were in the early stages of the pandemic and mass vaccination programs. If I am correct in this evaluation, this means that the risk of COVID-19 infection has gone down, while the risk of vaccination remains the same. This fundamentally alters the risk-benefit analysis of this current mass vaccination program. I therefore consider that the UK government authorities should pause the current mass vaccination program until a full population scale risk-benefit analysis is carried out and published for free and open peer review. A further call on the UK authorities to review the intramuscular injection technique used in the delivery of the mRNA vaccines. Currently, after insertion of the needle, the syringe is not aspirated to ensure the tip of the needle is not in a blood vessel. This leaves open the possibility of inadvertent intravascular administration, resulting in systemic spread of the mRNA vaccine particles in seconds. This would mean that mRNA vaccine particles would circulate in relatively undiluted form through vessels of the major organs of the body. This video is specific to current mRNA vaccines. I continue to promote the massive benefit of other forms of vaccination in the UK and around the world. Thank you for watching.
And this is a guy who I follow pretty religiously now, since I've been researching the whole COVID shot debacle, catastrophe, really. But he's literally saying, do the opposite of what the CDC is telling you. That's your supposed disease control authority. It's such a joke.
You have the right advice. If you have the right people giving you advice, that is the most important thing, is to pick the right individuals. And the people on Senator Johnson's panel would be delighted to go and advise a state on here's what you guys should be doing. Now, if you don't have that advice, then the best advice in lieu of that is just to listen to what the CDC says and do the opposite. And you will be far, far better off. That is probably the best medical advice that I could give you to save your life. When they say don't go for early treatments, they don't work. That ivermectin doesn't work, you know what you should do. When they say hydroxychloroquine doesn't work, you know what you should do. When they say masks work, you know that masks do nothing. You know, virtually every single thing the CDC tells you, if you did the opposite, you would be far better off, and you would be then, you know, the state of the art in the best medical treatment. But it's better if you have advice from people like Peter and others to guide you on this.
Creates a toxic.
Yep, and this is an interesting public comment made in Orange County, and talker here is Dr. Kevin Stillwagon. It kind of explains why some people get sick and some don't.
Spike protein creates a toxic spike protein in your body that can cause adverse reactions, including nervous system disorders, cancers, and worst of all, myocarditis that can lead to sudden death. So you might be thinking, those adverse reaction people are crazy. I got the shot, nothing bad happened to me. I'll give you 5 reasons why that is. First, you have no idea where the tip of that needle is when they push that plunger. If it's in a vein or a capillary bed, those particles will rapidly spread to your heart and to your brain, increasing your chances of neurologic and cardiac symptoms. Secondly, you have no idea how many particles are in that syringe. It could vary tenfold based on how it was prepared. And the more particles you get, the greater the chance of an adverse reaction. So maybe you just got lucky. Third, there is polyethylene glycol in the shot that keeps the particles from sticking together. If it degrades, and it does, you could get injected with coagulating goo that can cause a deadly stroke or a heart attack within minutes or hours. Fourth, the mRNA that's in the shot can degrade also, so it won't even make the spike protein at all, lessening your chance of an adverse reaction. Fifth, the more acidic your body is, the more spike proteins you will make, and that will increase the chance of an adverse reaction. So maybe you got lucky again, and your body, due to your diet or medications, was less acidic, and you made less spike proteins. But you can only be lucky for so long. The effects of this shot are cumulative. So my advice is to never, ever get one of these shots again. And if you did get one, get your D-dimer levels checked for microclotting and troponin checked for myocarditis. These problems can be asymptomatic and result in chronic disease or death in 2 to 5 years if you don't do something about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment.
Another gigantic.
And this is, she goes all the way back to the beginning, the first Bioweapon Blues episode that I did 3 months ago. This is Naomi Wolf.
Shocking tragedy, huge story broken by the War Room Daily Cloud. Pfizer documents research volunteers under the leadership of Amy Kelly. This is a post-marketing team report 3, stroke system organ class review of 5.3.6. And the headline is another mass murder that Pfizer brought about. There are 2 categories of strokes in the Pfizer documents, both of them horrific. In this adverse event category, one is bleeding around the brain, other is clotting in and around the brain, and strokes that involve venous pools within the skull, both very serious events. The Pfizer documents show that starting in December of 2020, meaning when everybody from the president on down was saying safe and effective, and then into 2021, new administration, that president, the spokesmodels, the heads of the CDC and the FDA saying safe and effective.
Right. So both presidents, Trump and Biden, safe and effective. Still recommending shots. January 1st, 2023. Joe Biden.
Pfizer knew that within 41 days after the rollout, this is post-marketing, 275 subjects sustained strokes. Of those, 1 in 5 died. Half of the strokes took place within 48 hours after injection. So 61 people died of stroke. And again, half the strokes were 2 days after the injection.
Okay. Are you saying Pfizer didn't show these documents to the FDA and CDC, or that the CDC and the FDA saw it and still gave emergency use authorization for this vaccine, ma'am?
It's worse than that, Steve. December 2020, they had the emergency use authorization. Every one of these documents on which this report is based was in the custody of the FDA. The White House would have known about it, certainly in the new administration. And yet, with the emergency use authorization, as they're watching people die, as they're watching 61 bodies pile up, Pfizer concludes there's no serious adverse events. 61 people dead. 1 in 5 of the people who sustained stroke events, half of those stroke events within 2 days after injection. This is just 2 countries, 41 days after rollout, they kept going.
And that is the Vigilant Fox. Again, I keep referencing his work.
6,000, where we had a database of over 6,000 women that came forward because their voices were being silenced. We had a group of about 20,000 women on Facebook who were talking about their experience with their menstrual cycle. They'd never seen anything like it. 90-year-olds beginning bleeding again. And we're not talking mild bleeding. We're talking clotting. I had women calling me who had been passing clots for weeks and weeks. We have 2 cases of little girls, 18-month-old girls, who hemorrhaged and died. In my cycle story, so we had over 6,000 women. Then we looked at the baseline rate of what's called a decidual cast shedding, passing a decidual cast. That is where the entire inside of the uterus just is shed all at once as a piece. It looks just like a plaster cast of the inside of the uterus. In our data, as I recall, it was like 269 women reported this. Most of our original database were women who hadn't even had the shot. It's doing something to the coagulation pathways in the body. That is just the tip of the iceberg. And I keep thinking, when these young women realize they will never be able to get pregnant because they had that shot, I mean, the horror of it is unimaginable.
Yeah, we're only getting started, guys. This is only the beginning. Once the dust settles and the lies go away, Fauci's gone, 3 days, 2 days. They should never refill his seat ever. The consequences are going to just rumble. This whole thing that Hamlin, who probably is dead from the NFL. Yeah. The NFL players are starting to talk like, oh my gosh, what have we done? What's happened? This shit gives you just an example. This next video is from Dr. Wolfgang Wodarg, W-O-D-A-R-G. It's posted by Denis Rancourt. I suggest people follow him on wherever you can. He's posting just information all the time. And I read his paper about the 3.7 million deaths in India from the shot. But this just shows you the incentive. So the perverse incentives, like you're actually incentivizing people to give out the shot. So for every day they're getting money, tons of money. And so it's going to be a real question of why those incentives were set up, or why people got paid to get remdesivir, events, all that stuff.
Misuse of entrusted power for private gain. Private means also, if you're a private shareholder company, it's also private gain. It's not only single persons who are bribed, but it's also institutionally organized. And you have this example from Germany now. The doctors got a lot of money for giving those jabs. They just said, yes, we need the doctors for fighting the so-called pandemic. And so the doctors got extra money. They got about 30 euros for one jab. And you know what it means? You know, this is 4,500 euros extra a month when you only give 5 jabs a day. Only 5 jabs a day, you can almost double your income. And if you give 50 jabs a day, you have 45,000 euros per month extra. This is almost 500,000 in a year. And this is how the doctors were paid. And this is why many doctors in Germany do it. And this is a systematic, this is bribing doctors, and the state was bribing the doctors, which we always think it's the other way around, that the state watches that nobody is bribed. No, now the state is bribing those the state needs to do what the state wants to do.
Project Veritas has obtained
This is an older video from Project Veritas that popped back up on my feed, but I think it's important. It just goes into how what was going on behind the scenes and what was being censored as well. I believe this was censored, and this was posted by Kim.com.
foreseen military documents regarding the origins of COVID-19, gain-of-function research, vaccines, potential treatments which have been suppressed, and the government's effort to conceal all of this. Dr. Anthony Fauci has testified many times before Congress, stating that the U.S. government was never involved in gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
They gained in lethality. It's a new virus. That's not gain-of-function. According to the definition that is currently operable, we're not going to get anywhere close to trying to prevent another lab leak of this dangerous sort of experiment. You won't admit that it's dangerous, and for that lack of judgment, I think it's time that you resign.
That assertion is based on the NIH's definition of gain of function. However, the documents we've obtained refute that. The documents in question stem from a report of the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, better known as DARPA, which were hidden in a top-secret share drive. But what is DARPA? They are an agency under the U.S. Department of Defense.
which facilitates research and technology with potential military applications. Project Veritas has obtained a separate report to the Inspector General of the Department of Defense, written by the U.S. Marine Corps Major Joseph Murphy, a former DARPA fellow. Major Murphy makes claims in his report to the Inspector General that, if true, could be damning to the official narrative that has been played out to the world over the past 2 years. Major Murphy's report states that EcoHealth Alliance approached DARPA in March 2018, seeking funding to conduct gain-of-function research of bat-borne coronaviruses. DARPA rejected the proposal because the work was too dangerous and could violate the gain-of-function moratorium, despite EcoHealth's position that it would not. According to the documents, the NIAID, under the direction of Dr. Fauci, did not reject the proposal. It went ahead with the research at Wuhan and several sites across the U.S. So here's the question. If the Department of Defense, the same people who make our nuclear arsenal, felt this research was too dangerous to proceed with, why in the world did the NIH, NIAID, and EcoHealth Alliance recklessly disregard the risks involved?
Never let anyone take your joy.
This is like an incredible video of your vice president. This is I've like asked people, is she high? I'm not joking. I don't know.
Never let anyone take your joy from you. I call myself a joyful warrior. Right? Never let anyone take your joy from you. You do what you gotta do. And isn't that a wonderful way to live? To know you have purpose. Never let anyone take
And then this is Peter Daszak, who received money from Fauci 2016, explaining very clearly what is going on with the gain of function research. I mean, he just admits it. And Fauci's talking about gain of function. Let's see if this video will work right here.
Finally, Elon Musk just teased the release of new Fauci files this week, tweeting, "Hope you're having a great day 2023. One thing's for sure, it won't be boring." Are you expecting a smoking gun with regard to Anthony Fauci in the Fauci files?
I'm expecting to see more involvement from the government in censoring speech, and this is very concerning. This is something that we've been talking about for the past several weeks on your show. The government should never play any role in censoring speech. We're concerned that the government has spent a significant amount of money, of taxpayer dollars, creating a task force of at least 80 full-time employees to do nothing but censor social media posts and censor conservative speech. You know, history will show that Dr. Fauci made a lot of mistakes. And history is also going to show, and I think Elon Musk is going to have a big role in that the government played a large role in trying to combat anyone who was a critic of Dr. Fauci, anyone who questioned Dr. Fauci's science, in ensuring that their voices weren't heard. We're paying the price every day for the mistakes that Dr. Fauci made during COVID. And I think what Elon Musk has the opportunity to do is show exactly how big a role the government played in getting Dr. Fauci's back on every controversial statement he made that affected our lives in a negative way over the past 3 years.
When people are vaccinated,
This is him just lying. I've already played some of these videos about Fauci really just lauding himself, but he's going to go down as one of the biggest mass murderers in human history, at least in American history. Once people get all the facts
and lies and all the things you're seeing going on in society from January 6th to everything else that goes on, people are craving for consistency, for integrity, for truth, and for people caring about people. It's called the Fauci effect, which is
it's just so nauseating, so sick. Sick that they let him get away with it. Okay, I'm going to move on to some slides that I have. And this first one is from Sasha Latypova, a name I've mentioned many, many times. Very important researcher into the whole COVID vaccine fiasco, which he quotes the Bible, 2 Timothy 1:7, "For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." And then she writes, "Pandemics do not exist in nature. Epidemics, if they do occur, are local and self-extinguishing, because that's how nature works. The evil psychopaths cannot really make pandemics happen. They can only scare you into believing these are possible in order to gain control over you and establish their cherished dream, a global totalitarian biosecurity state. Be not afraid." And I go back to Jicky the Mouse, another researcher who I found through Reed Shefdahl, and I've done 2 shows with him about his book, Heroes and Villains. But this is about investigations that he has. Jicky's located in Australia, and he has found out that some of these batches are tainted. Some batches are worse than others, and I think one of his findings is that some of the batches went straight to people who work for Pfizer, which is incredible. And those batches had no injuries. This is somebody responding to Jicky sarcastically saying, "Yeah, the TGA government AU aren't corrupt at all. They ban HCQ and IVM. They allow mRNA vaccines and remdesivir. Sure, it's just an insane amount of incompetence. It's just a coincidence they are almost entirely funded by Big Pharma." This is another slide that says, "Experts puzzled by why Haiti has one of the lowest COVID-19 death rates in the world, despite administering 0 vaccine doses. We don't know. They're playing stupid. They know exactly why." This is a slide. If you're watching, you can see this, but it's inverse correlation between heightened deaths after the vaccine rollout and birth rate. So more deaths, less births. This is Paul Merrick. He says, "We have a humanitarian crisis. The number of vaccine injured in the USA is 18 million people based on the CDC's V-Safe data." That's Paul Merrick, critical care specialist. It's an immense amount of people. This is from Asher Press. "German pathologist presents autopsy results of sudden adult death patients post-vaccination. Quote, blood-brain barrier is crossed by the vaccine. These brain cells are supposed to be helping us to think rather than making spike protein." It's Professor Arne Burkhardt. This was an interesting exchange between my loser, Congressman Ted Lieu, and he is citing somebody who was quoting some of the Twitter files or Fauci files that Elon Musk has been releasing to journalists. One was David Zweig, and Ted Lieu writes, "The tweet you cite is in fact misleading. People of all ages at high risk from COVID generally benefit from vaccines. Prior natural immunity may last only a few months. COVID appears to be a leading cause of death for children." That's not really true. I mean, there was a new case study that came out from Stanford. Ioannidis, who's been censored, it's a Greek last name. He said that through his epidemiological analysis and statistics, it's even lower for children, the risk of death from COVID, not from the vaccine. And so this was in response to something about Koldorf, who was another scholar who wrote, "No, thinking that everyone must be vaccinated is as scientifically flawed as thinking that nobody should. COVID vaccines are important for older, high-risk people and their caretakers. Those with prior natural infection do not need it, nor children." I think Koldorf was right. Lieu says that's misinformation, and then Elon Musk chimes in. Ted is linking to misleading data. So, yeah, it's just incredible. And it's become political. It's shocking that what side you're on this issue is even politicized. It's sick. It's very caustic and perverse. It's really unbelievable. Robert F. Kennedy writes here, December 25th, "America is now the target of a massive propaganda cyber attack by our own spy agencies to obliterate criticism of forever wars and mass vaccination." Yeah, that's right. And then this is a stat. This is from Statista, and it's from November 8th, 2021, and it just shows the amount of COVID deaths in the U.S. as opposed to Africa. And the numbers are varied. There's different people having various conclusions with stats, but it's clear that the United States had more deaths based upon its policies. So it's totally flawed, wicked, evil policies. You can see that ivermectin was just taken regularly in Africa and help save lives. And it wasn't taken here. It's actually rejected. I tried to get a recent prescription. I had to go through online mail to get it. So, yeah, we're run by very evil people. This is Nashville. Angela, 2 ABC producers died unexpectedly in the last week. Erica Gonzalez and Dax Tejera. Did you know that ABC has also been in litigation for denying religious exemptions? And this guy, Dax Tejera, he looked very healthy. He looked young and fit. He wasn't overweight. I've seen some recent pictures of him. He just walked out from dinner and dropped. Died right on the street. This is from Peter A. McCullough. He calls it the new great masquerader. Wide range of neurologic syndromes after COVID-19 vaccination. Quote, before the COVID-19 era, for ages in medicine, it has been said, syphilis is often referred to as the great masquerader, as it may present with a wide array of clinical symptoms and may mimic a variety of other diseases, making diagnosis challenging. There is no doubt that COVID-19 vaccine injury syndromes will far eclipse syphilis, sarcoidosis, amyloidosis, and any other systemic disorder, and will assume the throne of the great masquerader. In a recent issue of Current Neurology and Neuroscience Reports, Chatterjee and Chakravarty report on the wide range of central nervous system and peripheral nervous system syndromes that occur after COVID-19 vaccination. Yeah, so there's just a whole host of problems. The thing is toxic as hell. It's so toxic. Neurology, your heart, all your organs. It's incredible. And this is a slip of the tongue by this Director General of the WHO, Ghebreyesus, and he says some here. He says in this quote, so if it's going to be used, it better focus on those groups who have risks of severe disease rather than as we see some countries are using to give boosters to kill children. I don't know if he said that intentionally or it's a slip of the tongue, but I've seen the video. It's incredible. So there's just a lot of other things going on. There's a lot of information coming out. A lot of people, independent researchers, are doing a good job. And I try to mention their names. I try to be as diligent as mentioning these people's names. McCullough, Malone, Naomi Wolf, Sasha Latipova, Jessica Rose. Let's see. Antonio tweets, breaking news. DARPA unclassified documents confirms SARS-CoV-2 was created by EcoHealth Alliance at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, coordinated by Peter Daszak. It was designed to be deliberately virulent and humanized, resulting in 6.5 million deaths. Anthony Fauci was involved. That's Christmas 2022. This is defeat the mandates. He writes, out of 44,000 participants in Pfizer's clinical trials, the mRNA doses were approved based on 170 participants. Of that 170, 162 received the placebo, and 8 participants received 2 doses of the mRNA. That's how Pfizer claims to have reached 95% efficacy. Receipts from Pfizer. It's incredible. This is last week. Elon Musk writes much more to the Twitter Files COVID edition than this introductory thread. Follow-up piece to come next week, featuring leading doctors, researchers from Harvard, Stanford, and other institutions. So that was December 26th. So something should be dropping today or tomorrow. Today, right now, is January 5th, 2023. This is Justin Trudeau. He writes December 26, 2022. He's still forwarding the shots, wants people to die. The best way to stay healthy and to stay in the game is to keep your COVID-19 vaccinations up to date. If you're due for one of your shots, click here and find where and when you can get it. So he's a monster. That's obvious. This is a follow-up to that. Dr. William Mackis, same day. 23 Canadian children dead suddenly in past month. What the hell is going on? This is Dr. Paul Alexander, December 27th. Fauci, Birx, Francis Collins, Azar, Bourla, Bancel, Jha, Howard Najju, Teresa Tam, Walensky, Doug Ford, Williams, Kieran, Marks, Davila, Juni, Bogat, Jadal, Hang High. You beast, you illogical, irrational, absurd, inept, and incompetent, malfeasant Untermensch, you Beelzebubs, you bottom-dweller public health officials, you worse than devil, putrid, vapid filths, the complicit, equally filthy legacy media, for the lives you took with your lockdowns and school closures, the mandates, the lunacy, the denial of early effective treatment, the lies about inferiority of natural immunity relative to vaccinal immunity, and the forcing of the fraud, failed, ineffective, and deadly COVID gene injections that have so many of our police and military and border agents vaccine injured, with many going to, not if, but going to die in time due to your mandates. I want each and every one of you shown to have caused deaths to hang. So he's fired up. Paul Alexander worked for Trump, I think, early on. This is just another element of fraud, is slow walking this stuff. All the law enforcement agencies all around the world should be on top of this right now. And some are doing investigations. I think it's Japan, Germany. The U.S. should be doing investigations, but we're totally corrupt, third world country. Peter Halligan, December 27th, why the slow walk by the ICC to address claims of crimes against humanity? The UK magistrate was sacked last year for submitting claims of genocide against senior UK government employees and health regulators to the International Criminal Court. There are many such cases with the ICC. So they got sacked. Same was Kiara McCollum was her name. And there's like boosters here. They're pushing for boosters when there's no COVID. So they literally pushed for boosters when COVID had already been saturated. According to Reed Sheftal, COVID was gone through the system and everybody had zero immunity in early 2021. So this is a graph showing from a recent Freedom of Information request to South Australia Health. Guess what happened to the sick leave days when all the staff were forced vaccinated and boosted? Yeah, you guessed it, they went up. That was 2022. And the spike protein, not only does it affect tissues, but it suppresses your immune system. So this paper talks about this. This paper discussed that in that article shown definitively that the spike protein, the very one produced in huge quantities by the mRNA therapy, suppressed p53 activity at a cellular level. p53 is the main tumor suppressor in the body. So suppressing it is a really bad idea. Don't do it. As explained in that article, it will result in a whole host of cancers, starting with lymphomas. So now we have a problem on multiple pathways leading to the same scenario. 1, suppression of the body's defense against cancer. 2, suppression of the body's defense against viruses. 3, exhaustion of the very components of the immune system that protect against those two things. So it's like AIDS, like illness. And this is Molly James, December 26, 2022. They killed 1,500 of my patients in the ICU by blocking treatments. That's over 1,500 families I delivered bad news to daily for 18 months. End-of-life conversations in every language. I will not rest until justice is served. This is Chastity. Please keep fighting. I believe they killed my dad through their protocols. Was vented, then was getting better, then remdesivir, then kidney failure, dialysis, heart stopped. Of course, we couldn't be there, so we have no evidence. He died alone. Fight for him, please. December 27th, 2022. And this is Jicky Leaks again. Holy cheese, I've discovered something that should lead to the immediate investigation of the TGA and every drug regulator. 2 FOIs proved that there were batches of Pfizer vaccine that had killed people and should have failed the batch analysis, but they kept jabbing. You don't need a science degree or a molecular biology PhD for this. You just need an eye for patterns. Here's FOI 4077 just released. Each row is a person who died. They died because they believed the TGA, Atagi mantra of safe and effective, which was not true. In the report, which is only a fraction of the 900 deaths reported to the TGA, only a few batch numbers are documented. So any batch number that appears more than once is a red flag. The obvious ones are FL 5333, FH3221, and 000062A. What are the odds that those batch numbers appear in a Freedom of Information request put in on the 6th of December 2021, which was partially rejected? So any batch number that appears more than once is a red flag. You already said that. For context, there are 382 batches on the TGA's batch analysis report. From FOI 3471, the requested primer sequences in batch analyses of FK 8917, of which 4 appear on the death batch list. But in 57 documents, there was something that stuck out, in which I posted about earlier in the year. Because this account was suspended, that information was hidden from the public. This goes all the way back to April or before. So this is the bombshell. The Agilent curve showed irregularities in the RNA analysis that was ignored by the TGA. Here they are. Note the batch numbers. FL5333, FH3221, FK0738, and FL7649, all death batches. Did you know what else is not in the death batch log? Any of the 7 batches reserved for Pfizer employees. No, I'm not kidding. So then he lists off 7 of the batches that didn't do any harm. So on the information that we have available, which is restricted, we must conclude that the contaminated batches led to deaths which were not investigated and that contamination was ignored. Of course, the TGA can tell you that they didn't know that these Agilent curves showed contamination. You know why? Because they didn't know how to handle genetically transferable material, the very definition that should have meant referral to the OGTR. And you know what else the TGA and equally the FDA, MHRA, and EMA didn't know about this novel gene technology? Everything. We asked them. They had and have no idea what they were dealing with. They just approved it because someone told them to, and people died. It's incredible. This is the Vigilant Fox. Dr. Asim Malhotra calls BS on the claims the vaccines have saved 20 million lives. There was a paper not long ago that claimed C-19 vaccines have saved 20 million lives. Quote, let's just call it out for what it is, BS. It's science fiction, it's marketing, it's fraud. Yeah, they based it on a model, like a prediction of how many people were supposed to die. They didn't actually go out and get the evidence. It's a total joke. It's total propaganda. In addition to all the propaganda that you've had and all the lies. This is World War III 5E, right? Electronic propaganda warfare. It's totally toxic. People proffering these lies are children of the devil. There's nothing else to say about it. Popper. Dr. Naomi Wolf. The weird thing about the Pfizer docs is how obvious it is that this injection was studying the effect on the reproductive system. The government authorized the ruination of millions of women's bodies knowingly with this injection. December 26, 2022. This is Defeat the Mandates. You'll never see a story like this covered by ABC, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, NBC. Why? Big Pharma ads account for approximately 75% of their revenue. USA and New Zealand are the only countries in the world that allow drug companies to advertise directly to consumers. Yeah. It's amazing. You watch regular TV, it's just all based upon pharmaceutical ads. This is from Elon Musk, December 27th, 2022. Almost no one seems to realize that the head of bioethics at NIH, the person who is supposed to make sure that Fauci behaves ethically, is his wife. It's incredible. There's a picture of these two together. What a joke. Bioethics. This guy said directly to Senator Rand Paul, I do not have to disclose any money I make from my job. Right to his face. Brazen. He knew he was above the law. So another Elon Musk statement. Gain of function should be called bioweapon research, as the function referred to is death. What was the name changed to this time? These are in response to Mark Andreessen, the guy who started Netscape. This is Liz. She writes, since the satanic criminals at the WEF felt the pressure from Twitter and decided to crawl back into their rat hole, I'll be keeping you informed from the propaganda they openly post on their Nazi website. This is their upcoming conference, LOL. And their conference is Cooperation in a Fragmented World. They're trying to bring together 2,500 leaders from government, business, and civil society at a pivotal time for the world. That's in Davos. That's posted December 27th, 2022. This is a fake ad. It says, now that you realize your natural immune system has been destroyed and you will need booster shots for the rest of your life, you may feel angry. And that's normal. That's from Pfizer. Helping you blame others after you've been injected with an experimental RNA bioweapon. Yeah, we're in World War III, no question. People are under assault. No question. And this is from Steve Kirsch's newsletter. He reports some of these cases. And I just did an interview with the director of Anecdotals, so you can check that out on my podcast. I also have a Rockfin page you can check out. This is a quote. Some time ago, I texted you a video called Died Suddenly. It was about finding huge blood clots in people who were in good health but died very suddenly. I sent the same video to a customer of mine. Well, this morning I got a phone call from him. His 58-year-old brother who lives in Arizona and in decent shape was out running. All of a sudden, his heart stopped. He fell into a bush. Through the grace of God, there was a doctor running by at that exact moment and saw it happen. He started CPR and they got the guy to the hospital. He is still alive, but they found a 2-foot blood clot in him. The only way to find out if he has more clots is by doing a full-body MRI, which the hospital is saying he does not need. The guy was vaxxed and boosted 3 times. And there's another quote. I worked with vascular surgeons for 24 years and quit prior to COVID, so all our patients were unvaccinated insofar as COVID. I've seen clots primarily in the lower extremities longer than 1 foot, but mostly on ultrasound. In most cases, anticoagulation is used. In cases where clot removal or surgical thrombectomy is needed, the clot would not come out as an intact piece or unit. It would break up into pieces. So, as I commented below, I've never seen anything resembling these fibrous clots in operating room and have no idea what they are. And this is Sasha Latipova, the person who I mentioned at the beginning of this Bioweapon Blues 26. The role of the U.S. Department of Defense and their co-investors in COVID countermeasures enterprise. So that's important. And the intro is from Peter Halligan. He says, facts that are banned from every MSM outlet, all of them, too hot to handle, too cold to hold. The evidence, all cited from official, publicly available sources, is presented in stark relief. The U.S. Department of Defense ran the entire operation years before the pandemic was declared. Injections, martial law, all of it. It's incredible. It's really hard to believe, actually. These are all kind of DARPA letters. Latipova goes into all the DARPA stuff. Gets into the documents. Chinese Communist Party, DOD, all that stuff. This is from Walter Chestnut, December 29th, 2022. Game changer is long COVID and endothelial disease of the spike protein, which also infects monocytes, inducing accelerated glycosis that mimics cancer. Cachexia. Davos 2023 WEF shifts into high gear and preparing for the next pandemic. So they're getting ready for something, guys. They're telegraphing it. That's from Robert Malone, December 29th, 2022. And then they're kind of covering, this is supposedly covering up of things in the UK. Paul Alexander, UK giving our knighthoods to hide and protect those who kill people with the fraud COVID pandemic lockdowns and fraud, ineffective and deadly gene injection. So this is how it goes in Britain. This is another one. One by one, once great democracies like the US and the UK are falling under the slow drip of encroaching tyranny. It is bad enough when people are silenced because they speak out against their oppressors, but to be arrested for unexpressed thoughts in the privacy of your own head is a new level of repression that not even the Soviets, the Chi-Coms, or the Nazis could dream about. And that was in response to a woman who was outside an abortion clinic thinking to herself, the cops showed up. It's incredible. Peter Halligan, some terrifying mortality charts for Asian tigers in East Europe, which coincide with the rate of rollout of C19 mRNA injections. You can just see the mortality going up. And this graph is from Taiwan, Singapore, South Korea, Hong Kong, up 30%. This is Bill Gates, December 2019. What's next for our foundation? I'm particularly excited about what the next year could mean for one of the best buys in global health vaccines. he's right there on the cusp of the pandemic. Vernon Coleman, he states, nothing now is happening by accident. There are no coincidences. Everything bad that is happening is part of a master plan. And once you know that, it's easy to see what comes next. He's right. This is Grav John Stockton, NBA Central, from December 29th, 2022. John Stockton was like one of the great point guards, played for the Utah. John Stockton now thinks thousands of athletes may have died from the vaccine. Quote, I had the proof in my hands, the piece of paper with the names. I think it's in the thousands now. Don't quote me on that one. I'm not saying 1,000, but it might be. It's a big number. And this is a survey. I think it's from Steve Kirsch. Yeah. Is myocarditis rare or common? Let's find out. There's no such thing as mild myocarditis. If you get myocarditis, your death possibility of death is like 20 to 50%, something like that. It's not good. And he's gathering anecdotal information as well. So you can kind of go to his site. I'll put a link to it. Check it out. It's Peter Sweden. This is huge. The latest Twitter files show that the government told Twitter to censor criticism of the mRNA vaccines. First, they push this worthless shot on people, then censor the doctors who question it. Biggest medical scandal in history. Yep. Yeah, it is. And then there's a Missing the Point has a graph that shows the highest and lowest excess mortality rates are correlated with whoever gets the most shots has the highest mortality rates. Anyone who doesn't get the most shots has the lowest. So correlations here. This is another one that Kanioka did. Kanioka Substack. It's Kanekoa. Did a long thread about this guy, Chris Krebs. He was very much involved in the Trump overthrow. And he is also involved in this whole COVID censorship. It says Chris Krebs, political bias and his affinity for domestic censorship, called Trump a national security threat, pleased with Biden laptop censorship, passionately censored COVID-19 in elections, wanted lawyers and doctors disbarred, wanted conservative media bankrupted. And this is another guy, Alex Stamos. In January 2021, Alex Stamos compared over half of the Republicans in Congress to ISIS. He called on Verizon, AT&T, and Comcast to block OANN and Newsmax and said, we have to turn down the capability of these conservative influencers to reach these huge audiences. Incredible. These two guys are both on CNN, Krebs and Stamos. And then there's these other groups that people have never heard, like the EIP Starbird. And Kanioka writes, the EIP Starbird used advanced monitoring AI to map out entire networks of people who spread a narrative. This allowed the EIP to stalk every chain in what they deemed a false narrative and to systematically censor entire belief systems at scale. Kate Starbird heads CISA's Disinformation Advisory Panel with Vijaya Gad, the recently fired top lawyer at Twitter, who famously banned the former president and opposed Elon Musk's proposal to roll back Twitter censorship policies. Wow, these are un-American scum. She's a total monster. They should disbar her. That's so incredible. They're against constitutional rights. They probably made an oath to support the Constitution. She's a freak. Wow, this is unbelievable. In October 2020, Brookie would call the Biden laptop laundered, unverified misinfo. When DNI John Ratcliffe stated that the laptop was legitimate, Brookie publicly condemned Ratcliffe's credibility and accused him of politicizing intel. They always accuse the other guy of doing what exactly they're doing. That's the Olinsky method. And then you have Graham Brookie. Putin is a spy working a source. We elected someone vulnerable enough to be used and worked over. The analysis here is not hard. This is Marty Makari, PMD. He writes, because the NIH moved at glacial speed, most of our COVID knowledge came from overseas. It's incredible. That's from Fauci. Another just should have been arrested a long time ago. This is Jennifer. Pfizer lot EN6201 has nearly 4,000 reports of adverse events and 211 reports of deaths in the CDC's VAERS database. That's not misinformation. That's factual, verifiable data that the mainstream medical establishment and the media, an arm of Big Pharma, is choosing to ignore. Hashtag HotLot, December 29th, 2022. This is Kenny Oka again. Regardless of your opinion on voting machines or mail-in voting, it's clear that this public-private censorship network conspired with the big tech and big government to censor one side of the discussion. In February 2021, the EIP expanded its focus to censor COVID-19 disinformation. And there's an article that you can read. It's titled Memes, Magnets, and Microchips, Narrative Dynamics Around COVID-19 Vaccines. And then this is Steve Kirsch. He says, did the COVID vaccine increase all-cause mortality? Top British mathematics professor Norman Fenton says the chance of that is 99%. But he also says that the math says that your chance of convincing anyone of that is near zero. It's funny. This is a meme. It's dangerous to believe anything blindly. The science is settled. That's not how science works. You're a racist. This is a handbook for 2023. 1, if Bill Gates is involved, avoid it. 2, if Brandon says it's true, it's false. 3, if the CDC, FDA say it's safe, it's dangerous. 4, if Congress makes a law to help you, it will eventually hurt you. And 5, if the media agrees, it's a lie. Man, that's right. Jerry writes, the very first sentence in this NYT profile, the walls in Dr. Anthony S. Fauci's home office are adorned with portraits of him, drawn and painted by some of his many fans. And then Elon Musk responds, creepy. These are all the vaccines that have aborted fetal cell lines. So you're basically just getting a witch's brew put into your kids. Totally ungodly, totally unbiblical. This is Charlie Brown asked Snoopy, do you trust Dr. Fauci, Snoopy? Snoopy says, Dr. Fauci tortured my father to death. Liz writes, why is Justin Trudeau hated? He is Klaus Schwab's poster boy. He raped a child when he was teaching, went to Epstein's Island, hangs out with the Podestas, cheats elections, launders tax money, personally profited from all vaccines as he's committing genocide. Anything else? It's December 30th. This is Edward Dowd. It says 1.7 million Americans placed on disability directly related to COVID vaccine. This is the Vigilant Fox. I mention him all the time. People should go check him out. This is Fauci. I should be prosecuted. A prison cell can't come soon enough for Dr. Death, Anthony Fauci. January 21, 2020. This COVID-19 is not a major threat for the people in the United States. June 19th, 2021. If you're trying to get at me, you are attacking science. This is Health by James. A new study found a 9 times increased rate of myocarditis in males after mRNA booster. 3 or more COVID-19 vaccine doses associated with a 6-fold increased risk of infection, said Cleveland Clinic. And these are all the deaths. Died suddenly. Up-and-coming bull rider Blake Thewison has died suddenly. He was 18 years old. Jens Peter Abel was a German musician who died suddenly of unknown causes after receiving at least 2 death shots. He was way too young. This is Stefan Bonnar, 45. The UFC family is saddened by the passing of UFC Hall of Famer Stefan Bonnar. We send our sincerest condolences to his family and friends. This is Nashville. 2. Oh, I already read that one. Joe writes, a friend's 20-year-old grandson just taken off life support. He was on since Thanksgiving with blood clots all through him. If you're awake, you know why. Foam Dome writes, for those that won't get the shot for selfish reasons, whatever, I won't cry a tear at their funeral. That's Dr. Sohrab Lechmedial, July 2021. And then he died. Cardiologist who mocked the unvaxxed suddenly dies in his sleep after 3rd COVID jab. There's his picture. He writes in his social media, he's 52 years old. It's COVID-19 immunization at Horizon today was a slick operation, super efficient, and the staff were really organized. So happy to do my part. I'm really looking forward to being able to visit my father again and not being worried when I do. Yeah. Australian TV presenter Erin Jane Plummer has died suddenly at the age of 42. Vince writes, Merry Christmas from Pharma. Teen athlete dies from stroke complications on Christmas Day. These are two brothers and sisters dead. Alessandro and Vittoria Campo, 25 and 23-year-old vaccinated siblings, both died of cardiac arrest following vaccines. This is Marcus. He says, live every moment until your last. It is with great sadness that I announce the passing of my youngest son, Cameron. Amber writes, my 4-year-old broke out in a viral rash with sores on his tongue and throat. He could barely walk. His legs were so sore after his second shot. They do them 3 weeks apart for kids under 5. Why are you giving it to your kid? This is high school student Trinity Corgenio of Fullerton, California, died suddenly, unexpectedly, as she collapsed and her heart stopped. She was just 17 and was required to get the vaccine to study in California. Her mother says she was healthy and had no medical preconditions. This is Mary Beth Pfeiffer. 2 babies die, likely from their mother's first trimester COVID vaccines. Hoosick Falls, New York. Jewel Justine Junebug Birch, 6, unexpectedly passed away on September 8th. This is hidden. Prayers for my sister, please. In hospital with COVID and blood clot in leg, about to be put into an induced coma. And the answer to your next question is yes. And then he writes, she has passed away. It's December 29th, 2022. This is from a comment. Remdesivir killed my younger brother last year. The doctor told his wife that he had an allergic reaction to it. He was dead within hours of taking it. Prior to that, he had been admitted to the hospital to be treated for COVID. When I talked to him, his wife, on a Sunday evening, she said he was getting better and was going to pick him up on Tuesday. After I talked to her, the doctor treating him decided to speed up things by giving him remdesivir. I caught a call from her at about 4 a.m. the next morning saying he was gone. I was in total shock. Later, she told me what the doctor told her. Of course, they counted it as a COVID death. This is Jenny. Thank you for everyone who prayed for us today. It didn't work out the way that we hoped. Another angel baby for us after an ultrasound today. It's 8 weeks. That's the 3rd lost during COVID, 4th overall. Grateful for my 5 daughters and peacefully letting go of the dream of 6. This is Nashville. DHS employee Jam Padilla has had 10 surgeries since her booster in spring of 2022. 5 of those were for pacemakers her body keeps rejecting. At the time of her fundraiser a few weeks ago, she was preparing for an open heart surgery. I think I've read this guy, Victor Samoa's death, 34. El Camino Hospital's emergency department head, Laura Cook, died suddenly in her sleep. Steve Kirsch. December 30th, 2022. 2 little girls dead after jab on Gold Coast, Cairns News. December 30th, 2022. That's in Australia. Celebrity personal trainer Shannon Ponton backs injured. And this is Morissette died of mad cow disease. Her husband wants to file a complaint against Pfizer. She might have got it from Pfizer. And that's the end. So that's the end of Bioweapon Blues 26, World War III 5E, 5th generation electronic warfare. Thank you for listening.